Hey, you're through the books, boys. You've got Dean on the line. Who's calling?
Hello, Dean. It's Lindsay.
Hey, Lindsay. How's it going?
I'm doing very well today. How are you?
I am good. So you wouldn't be Lindsay Sealey, author of Made for More, would you? Which I conveniently have beside me here.
That's me. That's me. Lindsay Sealey, made for more. Yes.
Awesome. I read this last month, and we talked a little bit about it on the show. But I'm glad that you've called in because we can go a little bit more in depth on this one.
I
Um,
love that.
I suppose I want to ask you first of all, because like we interview a lot of people who maybe it's like their debut novel and this kind of thing, but this is
Mhm.
more of a help book. But you've written loads. This is like nowhere near your debut. So how many have you written first of all?
Well, I've written two other ones before Made for More. I wrote Growing Strong Girls, which was really a parenting resource for parents of pretty young girls, preteens, we call them. So say 8 to 13. And then I followed that with Rooted, Resilient, and Ready. So still for parents and now supporting teens who can be a little bit trickier than the little girls. And obviously there's more complex and complicated issues. And then I decided to kind of keep going with the ages and stages
Hmm.
and to write something that was really yes for parents, but this one is a little bit different because it's actually for young women. My hope is that young women or less than young, like a little bit older women too, are reading it and taking from it instead of having it be a parent resource. It's now a young person resource.
Right. So
Yeah.
do you think, I mean, I guess you've got Brave New Girls and you've got this kind of mission, I suppose. Do you think that, putting it out there for the young people as well as or instead of the parents, does that better help you to achieve your goals, I guess?
Well, I just think like when I started Bold New Girls, I had come from a place, a job which was really like I felt like it was 9 to 5 and really in a box and there's lots of rules and lots of bureaucracy. And I think leaving that job and really thinking about my what's next and my dreams and creating the company that I really wanted to, which is a company that empowers girls, young women through education and through the empowerment tools like personal growth and development. I really was intentional about not having limits or limitations. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to work the 9 to 5. I didn't want to work in an office. I didn't want to have the same day, oh my gosh, over and over again. So really, like I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew I had, you know, definitely passion, interest, and experience in working with younger girls, say between 10 to 15. But then I started to get the really little girls. And then I started to get older girls and older women and parents and teachers and schools and also boys, like
Mm-hmm.
younger boys, teen boys, young adults at the college I work with. And so I really decided like, yes, I guess the face of my company is Bold New Girls, and that's, great for marketing. But I added Brave New Boys, and I just decided like I don't care who needs my help. If you need my help, I am more than happy to show up for you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how it became. So pretty fluid and pretty flexible.
But it's nice that it's flexible. It's nice that it's kind of expanded or,
Yeah.
or grown and you can help more people. So let me make sure I get it right the right
Bonus.
way around. We got bold new girls and brave new boys, yeah?
That's correct. You
Cool.
got it. Yeah.
And I mean, are you doing all of this yourself, or what kind of like support have you got in that?
Well, I do have a partner he does most of Brave New Boys. But
Okay.
what's interesting is that there's a lot of clients that we share. And I think it's actually really great that we came to the realization, we live in a society that's very black and white. And it's like, but maybe it's not. Like, little boys need both like feminine influence and masculine influence. And same with girls. And so where
Yeah.
we can, we do share our clients. Just it depends on, what their needs are and what they're comfortable with, what they're looking for. But yeah, I do share and I'm also yeah, we're just really aware of inclusivity and that we have different strengths in different areas of growth and sometimes the combination is magic.
Nice. Good. Good.
Right.
Hit them with a combination. I really think
Yeah.
that a lot of guys could use more feminine influence. That's something like just
Oh,
in my day-to-day life, it's
100%.
something I'm always kind of spouting, like, we need more feminine influence for men. So that's really good that you are kind of trying to combine the approaches there. So I had I'm going through the book and I want to just kind of mention two or three little things that I really like. So one of the main features of it is these more or less lists, right? So just as an example here, more playfulness, more creativity, more time in nature. That's one of my favorites. And then we've got like
Mm,
less sadness, less pain, less fear. So I'm reading through this and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, yeah, like this seems reasonable. And it seems almost obvious. But then I'm thinking, hold on, how not even how much time in my day, how many days in the week do I stop to actually deliberately do this? So it's easy saying, oh,
right.
yeah, you should have less fear and pain. It's like, yeah, that seems obvious, but am I actually taking steps to do that? Or, I like time in nature and creativity. Am I actually taking steps to like increase the amount of creativity that I'm doing or playfulness or connections with other people?
Mm,
So I stopped and kind of looked at it and I thought, yeah, my first glance, was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm doing that. And then my second thought was, am I though? Like, do I need to put some work
mm,
into this? So it kind of made me
mm,
think, which I liked. And time in nature is a great one. It's a little bit tricky in the winter. It's very cold in Ireland, but I do love it in the summer. Just going for walks. Last summer,
mm.
I took 6 weeks off work and I went every single day for walks in forest parks, hikes, small mountains and hills, just around lakes, everywhere. And time in nature, I think is really, really great to, just for your mental health and everything.
Mm.
But I wanted to ask you, do you think, because you got the different age ranges that you're targeting, do you think that Gen Z, the kind of the youth of today, are facing different challenges than like previous generations? And if so, like what do you think makes it different? Like what can we do to help them that would be different from like, ourselves and millennials and Gen X's and things?
Yeah, 100%. So, well, first of all, I'm very happy that you spent time in nature because if you're like me,
I was
it's
also
very
happy.
restoring and very, it brings a perspective that sometimes we miss or we just get too in our heads in our busyness and in our to-dos. So, I'm really happy for you. Do I feel, yes, I think every generation has its challenges to contend with, and every generation is different. So the world changes, and we all change how we're navigating the world, but I do feel like huge empathy for this generation, for Gen Zers, because I think the big difference is that we all have to navigate and really try to deal with screens, devices, and social media. And that is brand new, just the technology age, right? And
Hmm.
with that comes the speed with which we get information, the access, the basically, I tell girls, like, there is no stop. It's 24/7. It's really hard to say, well, I'm not going to look at my phone, but everything's beeping and buzzing and blinking and
Hmm.
notifications. And it's really hard. And when we stay away from it, we feel like we're missing out or we're not going to be informed enough or whatever. So I just feel like we're all trying to figure out, how do we do this? Like, how do we find health, happiness, and balance, even though the world is like so busy, so stimulating? There's so many choices. There's like I feel like the girls that or the young women I work with have these boulders on their shoulders. And they're like, it's too much. I can't deal with it. There's
Yeah.
just so many expectations, so many pressures to prove themselves. There's so much going on. And it's like, I don't feel like any other generation has had the intensity that we have,
Hmm.
or the fact like we're all living, but now we're living like on a stage, like under a magnifying glass. Like it's different, and yeah, we have some control of what we put out there, but I think that alone is just it's hard, and I don't think anyone's really figured it out. We're
Yeah.
all doing the best we can, but I don't know if I can like reduce all that down to like, well, just do this, Dean, and you'll
Mm.
be fine.
I like that you said
I
we're all living on a stage because that feels like I've never sort of heard someone put it in those words, but it immediately feels like perfect. Like, yeah, that is exactly what we are doing, like with all the, Instagram and TikTok and everything. It's like all of your
right.
life. It's like making a reality show 24/7. And I worry because like millennials have that too, but they can just about remember when it wasn't like that. And I worry for Gen Z because they're like, this is
Exactly.
normal.
This is what I was born with, a phone in my hand. That's right. We have the contrast, and I try to bring those stories to the people that I work with, and just say, look, there was a time where I had to deal with tough stuff, but I didn't have it, someone posting about it or or
Yeah.
being mean online or bullying me about it. But I think that maybe back to your more or less ideas, like, or what you said at the beginning of this question, is that maybe that is it. Like, if I could simplify it, it's like we know that there's a lot going on, and so can we live with intention? And I think a lot of our intentions are made, this is personal experience, but I will offer this, is they're made because we feel like something's wrong. Like, I'm too stressed. I'm too sad. I feel too busy. I can't do today. Like, when I get to those moments, and when, the young women I work with get to, like, I don't want to call it rock bottom, but just difficulty and just challenges, that's when we're really like forced to change. Like, I'm sick of being this way. I'm sick of feeling like that. Like, I need to do something different. And that's where it becomes beautiful. I call it, like, that's empowerment. Like, okay,
Hmm.
you're not happy with being too busy. What do you need to have less of? Maybe less time on your phone, maybe less Netflix, maybe a few less friends that really aren't fulfilling to you anymore. Like, you are the decider. And in that way, this book is really personal and it's really customized, because I might not have that same problem. I love being busy. And, like, for the most part, that I thrive in busyness. But that's not my problem. My problem might be sadness or depression or whatever it is I'm going through. But I think it's when we hit those stuck points where we're like, I'm not happy here. I don't want to be here. What do I need to do to change? And then, like you said, you have this idea. Well, I want to spend more time in nature. Well, how are you going to do that? What does that look like on your schedule? Like,
Yeah.
where are you going to do it? What does that mean? For how long? Is it solo or with friends? Like, you are the decider of this stuff, and then go and do it. Hold
I th-
yourself accountable.
yeah, I think you need to get a little bit more into, into specifics. And I like that there is that
Mm.
flexibility. And, in the book, it's not just kind of saying everyone should immediately spend more time in nature and get off your phone. It's like, well, how does that, as you say, like, how does it actually fit your schedule? And also, is that what you
Yeah.
need? Like, will that actually help
Yeah.
you? Because we're all different. So I like that there is that little bit of personalization, like you can kind of tweak it to what actually works for you. And I think that's
Of
what makes it
course.
really great. Some of the other things I like. So, I mean, this particular book is aimed at females, but I'm reading it and I was really excited then to see that you had Brave New Boys as well, because I'm reading it and I'm thinking, kind of feel like a lot of this also applies to me as a guy. Like, I'm taking a
Mm.
lot out of it as well. And a couple of things that I love are the do, delete, and delegate. So it's kind of, well, I don't know, I'm telling you, but just to tell the listeners, it's kind of like, what do you need to do now to kind of prioritize it? What can be delegated to someone else? It's almost a management style. And what can you delete? Like, you don't really need to do this, or you don't really need to do it right now. And it's something that I've kind of started doing now over the last few weeks, just in my own life. Like, how can I get my schedule to make more sense? Because I'm one of those people that's like, okay, let's try to cram 15 hours of activities into like a 6 hour period. So now
Me
it's like,
too. Me too. Wow.
so now I'm
So
trying to
fun.
like figure out, okay, do all these things need to be done and in what order? And then we've also got a little timeline, which I think is handy. Like, not like a daily timeline, but you include almost a yearly kind of like which priorities need to be done early in the year. Maybe let's review around, set yourself goals over the year and then review like at the midpoint, like June or July, and kind of see how you're getting on. And that's also something that I think is really, really handy. And I'm gonna maybe make that my New Year's resolution when we get to January, to be like, okay, what do I actually want to get done? And then
Right.
halfway through the year, like, okay, don't beat myself up over it, but let's tweak the priorities a little bit and see how we can get on the second half of the year. So I like that.
Can I speak to the timeline? Because you just made me think of something. I think
Yeah.
that's very popular that we say, like, oh, okay, I'll wait till January. Or for me, it's often like the beginning of the school year. And then lately I've been thinking, like, no, no, I think if we have this idea of like goals on any day, we should actually start that day.
Just start that day. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you homework, Dean. I'm going
Oh
to say
no.
create the timeline. So your timeline isn't going to start in January. It's going to start in November or December, and you're going to draw it. And you can just obviously draw it until October of next year. But it's like, I think that that's something that's really important. Is like,
Okay.
I like to ask the question, like, why wait? So if you have the idea, and sometimes the motivation, excitement, enthusiasm, go for it, because
Just
in the
do it.
waiting, sometimes it's forgotten, and sometimes, like you said, other things become priority. But I think having a sense of both, like where we've been, I like to go backwards first, and where we're going actually is pretty important for our day to day. So
Mm,
then when we link it back to the 3Ds, that really came from my very high moments of stress. I think the highest stress I felt is in creating Growing Strong Girls, because I was a new author and I was
sure.
scared and I was still doing my job and my life, and I like to keep busy with all the other things. But I remember complaining, we'll say, to my partner, and he's like, just go back to your calendar. And I was like, what? That's like the worst advice ever. When you're stressed, you want someone to like hug you and be like, it's okay, you're amazing. But he's very logical. And I was like, what the heck? Go back to my calendar. So I had to really wrestle with what he was saying. But he was saying basically, you're in charge.
Yeah.
So today, if you're feeling too stressed, that's a day where you delete. Tomorrow, if you're feeling a bit better, maybe you do some jobs, but you can offload, you can delegate some people to do that. Maybe you're taking on too much and you're not realizing, like, that isn't actually your job, or that's not your expertise. And then there are days where you just need to roll up your sleeves and do the work. Like, stop the
Mm,
planning, stop the thinking, just do it. And all of these feel good because you're the decider and you're in charge and you're managing your stress, and you're also really prioritizing what is most important for today. There's no such thing as multiple priorities in a day. The word priority means one.
it's one thing.
So
Yeah,
you can
sure.
pick one, or in my case, because I do have many priorities. So I'm like, how do I make this like little, piece of wisdom true for me? But I can have priorities, but it's one priority at a time.
Sure.
So
That makes sense.
today, my priority, this conversation. And then after this conversation, I'll go on to my next priority.
Mm.
But if this conversation took all day, then that priority, a second priority, just gets bumped to tomorrow. But it's really, to me, I like to approach it with like a playfulness and a
Mm,
creativity and a flexibility. Like, yeah,
sure.
I do my timeline, and of course that can change, but the goals are there. And then I work backwards. How am I going to reach those goals? And what does that mean for each day? And I just believe that that's where, we get done what we really want to do, other than, or otherwise we procrastinate and stuff just doesn't get done. We're just too busy with the other stuff. So,
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I was frantically flicking through
right.
the book there so I could get the
Yeah,
names right for the last thing I wanted to say that I really liked, which is
sure.
the triple time motivators. So the fast 15, the half hour hustle, and the power hour. I
Yeah,
love those because, well, they sound nice because they got alliteration. But no, I also like them
yeah,
because it's like, oh, okay, try to figure out. So you put, for example, catching up on the news that can be done in 15 minutes. Maybe your laundry or cleaning your car is half an hour. Maybe exercising or, reading, preparing for a project. You need the power hour. So I kind of like that idea of just like focusing down like your different tasks as well, like not necessarily just prioritizing them in order, but also like how long do they actually need. I mean, like there's just a solid hour on like preparing this project, and we'll just do it, and then it's like okay, and then this other thing like that only needs half an hour, and just but kind of
right.
being focused on it and doing it and not just like messing around. I like that.
Well, it's because I think our brains work really well with like order, organization, structure, patterns, predictability, like all that stuff. Our brains are like, hey, like I want like a routine. And so one of the things that helped me, especially for the things I do not like to do, like cleaning the house, is seeing that there's a beginning and an end. Because if you said just clean your house, to me, that's like the abyss, and that could be forever. And who's
Yeah.
going to start doing something that's going to take forever and is also like not enjoyable, right? So I play little games with myself and I say, okay, I'll just, turn on the timer for an hour and flip it. Instead of I have to clean for an hour, it's more like how much cleaning can I get done in half an hour? And I
Mm,
think the brain does really well. Like once that timer goes off, I'm free. And usually I just keep going because then I'm into it. But I think it's just a way to like get myself to do things that I don't necessarily want to do. And I
mhm.
think it's nice to have the end point. So it's not forever. Our brain does really well in those like structures and details. And I think we all, like I said with the timeline, I think we all have a tendency to wait until we feel motivated. But I just don't think that's logical. Like I think it's more like, no, you take a step and you start creating momentum or energy, and then the motivation follows. It's sort of like
Mhm.
you just got to do it. I don't feel like running every day, but I know to get ready and the night before and I see my runners there. So there's the visual reminder. And I think in the morning, okay, I don't feel like doing it. Like that's normal, but I can just put on my runners. So I put on my runners and, put on my running clothes and just open the door. And maybe I say, I'll just take a step. And so I take that step and it's like, you know what? That kind of feels good. I'll take another one. It's not that slow, but I'll take another step and another step. And then soon
Yeah.
I'm running and I'm like, you know what?
You
Since
gotta
I'm
trick
here,
yourself like,
I
hey,
might as
I
well
happen
keep
to be
going.
outside in my running clothes. I
Yeah,
guess I'm
here
gonna
we
run.
are. And then you're running, but it's like, again, we're always trying to get to that feeling. Like when you're managing your schedule, you feel like you're in charge, you feel less stressed when you're doing the things that you don't want to do with some, self guidelines. You start to feel really proud of yourself and accomplished and good and confident. And I think that those are really important lessons that we have to experience. I can't tell you that that's how it's going to be. You have to experience it. And then when we succeed at things, we're even more motivated to do it again or do it differently in another area. So it's pretty exciting stuff, actually.
You do
I'm
have that chain
excited
of
to,
motivation, especially with the cleaning, as you said. Like you don't want to
yeah,
start it, but then once you get started, you're like, okay, I can keep going. I can actually do a little bit more because, like,
right.
you're not that you're necessarily enjoying the cleaning, but you can see that you're actually getting through it, and like, oh, this isn't so bad. Like I can just,
But
do
you
this
do
other
enjoy
bit.
the results. Like
You enjoy the
like my
result.
partner is way cleaner, but I come home and it's like it smells like lemon and everything's put away and like it actually is huge, I think, for mental health and
Yeah.
like for how I feel. And I'm like, I wish I was as clean as him. I'm not bad, but it's like I know the results are huge. So that's like pretty motivating.
For the first time in a good while, I deep cleaned my
Yeah.
oven this week. And it was something I was like, no one's
Whoa.
gonna see in there, it doesn't matter. And now I've done it and it's so sparkly. And I'm like, can people come around and look at my oven? Shall I cook for everyone? Like, look how sparkly it is,
And you're going to want to keep it clean. So
Yeah.
you're like, yes, that was 4 hours of work and it's kind of disgusting, right? And so you're like, okay, from now on, every time something drips or I just give it a quick wipe and it's like it'll never get this disgusting again.
Hopefully. Well, let me ask you, what is next? What's the next book or the next project?
Oh yeah. I have a sense. So this hasn't been like I haven't signed a contract. I haven't like even had a much of a conversation with my publicist, but I just feel like I'm like with Made for More, I almost caught up to my age, almost. So, you might hit 30s, 40s, it's still very applicable. So I'm thinking it's really important given, the upside down world that we're now living in and the fact I know a lot more now, like after writing Growing Strong Girls. I would love to go back to the beginning, almost like a prequel to Growing Strong Girls.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, I don't know, like call me crazy, but I'm thinking like if we go to the very beginning from like 0 essentially to 9, and we are having conversations with girls about, listening to their bodies and like feeling all their feelings and, being brave and taking chances and being confident, like I'm pretty sure those very young girls are going to become stronger little girls, teenage girls, and young women. So I really want to like get ahead of it, almost like a preventative of how to really for parents. And I think the big focus for me is going to be on stories. I think stories are so powerful and meaningful and heartfelt and scripts because I think often or strategies and scripts, I should say, because we need the story to understand what's happening. We need the strategies because, like we said, you need to know what to do. Don't just tell me to like raise a strong girl. And then we need the scripts. Like, what does that sound like when you're having a conversation? Which is how we teach our kids a lot of the times.
Strategy
We're talking,
scripts.
talking, talking. So I'm gonna write that down because I like
You're good
alliteration
at having
too.
these little snappy, kind of catchy pieces.
I know it's become my thing, but I think it could also borderline annoying. But yes, I like stories, strategies, and scripts because I think that really is they're just easy takeaways. Like it's
Yeah.
very easy to hear and be like, oh, if I just said this to her, if I just said, your sadness makes sense. Well, now sadness in this little girl is like normal and like she owns her sadness and she's not doubting herself or trying to push the sadness down. It's just sadness and like then she can can talk about what to do with the sadness and then the sadness goes away and like
Yeah.
now we have a very healthy, emotionally healthy little girl.
Own the situation before you can work on it,
Yeah,
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of dealing with these problems, it's like, or we could prevent a lot of
Mm,
problems. So
sure. Well, before
so
I
any
ask
strategies
you
and tips?
the infamous final question, I just want to, do you want to take a few seconds real quick and like plug your website or where we can get the book or something like
Yeah,
that?
sure. My website is my name, lindsaysealey.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, all the socials really, but I look at Instagram the most, and that
Okay.
is at Bold New Girls,
Cool.
BoldNewGirls. Thank you.
I'll pop a link to the site and things in the show notes as well. So the last
Thanks.
question, which we always like to ask, is if there is an existing book that you wish you'd been the person to write, what would it be?
Okay, there like I I read a book a week. So this is like an impossible question.
Sam.
Really, like this has been my practice for a while since Audible because it makes it easier when I'm in my car. So it is impossible to choose one. I I think I love them all. Like maybe not equally, but I always like gain tons of ideas and wisdom and practical tools. But I think the best thing to do is just to share the book I'm currently reading.
Okay.
And so it's by Dr. Becky Kennedy, and it really fits into my next project. So I'm super excited about it. And it's called Good Inside. And it's really, I think her heartfelt message is that, we're all good as humans, we're good and we're trying to do good things and we're doing our best and we're also totally screwing up, making mistakes and falling and failing, and that's okay. And so it's a very positive, I think, and empowering approach. Like, hey, like as a parent, like I know you're trying, and here are some tips and tricks really to try differently because this might work better for you. But if it doesn't work, do this instead. Like
Hmm.
it's just full of ideas, and I think it's really like probably the most supportive book I've read. So
Okay.
instead of saying like, oh, okay, like you probably messed up or you're going to have to go back and do tons of therapy before your parenting is back on track, it's not like that. It's just like, hey, I'll meet you where you're at. And I know you're doing good. No need to feel shame or
Hmm.
guilt or badly about anything. But from now on, you could probably do it differently
Okay.
or a little bit better. And like, there you go. See how that works for you.
Seems
If it
like a good
doesn't work,
approach.
that's okay. It's so good. And it's
Nice.
backed by research and her experience as a therapist. But my takeaway is just, it's very, very, very affirming. Like you're doing a good job.
Hmm.
And that's what we need to hear because we have so much self doubt and so much shame, I think, that we're making mistakes or
Mm.
fear. Like, what if I'm screwing my child up and that's it, game over? And she just makes you feel like wherever you're at is good. And of course, we as humans, we all just want to grow and try to do a little bit better every day. Loved it. Good inside.
Awesome. Brilliant. Well,
Yeah.
Lindsay, thank you so much for calling in and chatting to us. I love the book, and
My
as I say, I'll put the link
pleasure.
in the notes and everything like that. And take care.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ian. Okay, bye.
Awesome. Bye bye.
Bye.